The afternoon began like any other weekday in the small town. The streets were calm, the air warm, and the school bell had just rung. Parents waited near the gates, some checking their phones, others talking softly. Among them was a tall man with a steady posture. He stood a little apart, watching carefully. Life had taught him to stay alert, even in peaceful places. He was a single father, raising his young daughter on his own. Every day after school he came early, not because he worried too much, but because being present mattered. His daughter ran out with her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. She smiled when she saw him and waved with both hands. He smiled back, the kind of smile that came easily only for her. Since her mother had passed away years ago, the two of them had grown close in a quiet way. He listened more than he spoke. He noticed small things. He knew when she was tired, when she was nervous, and when something felt off, even before she said a word. That day she stopped waving suddenly. Her smile faded. Her eyes moved past him, toward the edge of the playground where a group of older kids stood near the fence. The man followed her gaze. First, nothing looked strange. Kids argued sometimes. Voices rose and fell. That was normal. But then he saw a smaller figure near them, backed against the metal fence. A black girl, younger than the others, held her school bag close to her chest. Her shoulders were tense. Her eyes darted around, searching for a way out. The older kids leaned in, blocking her path. Their words were sharp, but low. The man could not hear them clearly, yet the tone said enough. This was not a game. This was not a simple disagreement. His body reacted before his thoughts fully formed. His posture shifted, his focus narrowed. Years of training had taught him how to read moments like this. But he stayed where he was. He did not rush. He watched, measuring, waiting. His daughter tugged at his sleeve. Her voice shook when she spoke. "Daddy," she whispered, eyes wide. "Please help her." Those words landed hard. Not because he had not noticed, but because they came from a place so pure and sure. He looked down at his daughter. She was not afraid for herself. She was afraid for someone else. That mattered. He knelt so their eyes were level. "Stay right here," he said softly. "Do not move." She nodded, gripping her backpack strap tightly. As he walked toward the fence, he kept his movements calm. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He simply stepped between the girl and the others, placing himself where the tension was highest. The older kids froze for a moment, surprised. Adults often yelled from far away. This man did not. He stood close enough for them to see his eyes clearly. "Step back," he said, voice low and firm. One of them scoffed. Another rolled their eyes. But they stepped back anyway, unsure why they did. Something in his presence made arguing feel pointless. The girl slid sideways, unsure whether to run or stay. Her hands were shaking. "Go stand by the office," he told her gently, without turning his head. "You're safe." She hesitated, then moved quickly, eyes still fixed on the ground. Teachers soon noticed the small crowd forming. A whistle blew. Voices called out. The moment broke apart as quickly as it had formed. The older kids scattered, muttering excuses. Staff members stepped in, asking questions, writing notes, doing what rules required them to do. The man stepped back and raised his hands slightly, showing he was not there to cause trouble. He explained calmly what he had seen. His words were clear, not emotional. The staff listened closely. One of them thanked him. Another nodded, already leading the older kids away. From across the yard, his daughter watched him with wide eyes. When he returned, she ran to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. He rested his hand on her head, steady and warm. "Is she okay?" she asked. "She will be," he said. "You did the right thing." As they walked to the car, the man felt a strange weight settle in his chest. It was not fear or anger. It was a quiet pull, the kind that comes when something unfinished has begun. He glanced toward the school office. Through the window, he saw the girl sitting alone on a bench, feet not touching the floor, hands folded tight in her lap. No parent stood beside her. No one waited at the door. That image stayed with him. That evening at home, the man cooked dinner while his daughter set the table. The usual sounds filled the kitchen. The hum of the fridge, the clink of plates, the soft music playing from a small speaker. Yet his thoughts kept drifting back to the fence, the fear in the girl's eyes, and the way she had moved like she expected the ground to disappear beneath her. At the table, his daughter spoke again. "Daddy," she said, pushing her peas around with her fork. "Why were they so mean to her?" He paused. He chose his words carefully. "Sometimes people hurt others because they think they can," he said. "That doesn't make it right." "Does she have a mom or dad?" she asked. "I don't know," he answered truthfully. His daughter nodded slowly, thinking, "I hope someone helps her." So did he. Later that night, after his daughter fell asleep, he sat alone at the kitchen table. Papers from work lay spread out, but he did not touch them. He replayed the day in his mind, not the confrontation, but the moments before and after. The silence around the girl. The way she had not cried, not screamed, just waited. Like she had learned that making noise did not always bring help. He had seen many kinds of fear in his life. This one was different. It was quiet, heavy, familiar in a way he did not like. The next morning, he arrived at the school earlier than usual. He spoke with the front office, careful not to overstep. He said he wanted to make sure the situation had been handled properly. The staff answered politely, but with limits. Privacy rules, procedures. He understood all of that. Still, he asked one more question. "Is the girl okay today?" There was a pause, a glance between staff members, then a careful answer. "She's here," someone said. "She's adjusting." That word stayed with him. Adjusting to what? Fear? Loneliness? Being unseen? As he walked back to his car, he noticed the flag near the entrance fluttering in the wind. He stood there for a moment longer than needed. In his life, he had followed orders, completed missions, and walked away when the job was done. This felt different. This felt unfinished. When his daughter came out of school that afternoon, she was quieter than usual. Halfway to the car, she looked up at him. "Daddy?" she said softly. She sat alone at lunch. He stopped walking. "How do you know?" he asked. "I saw her," she said. "No one sat with her." He opened the car door, helped his daughter in, and closed it gently. As he walked around to his side, a decision began to form, slow and steady. He did not know yet what it would lead to. He only knew one thing. When a child asks for help, directly or not, the answer should never be silence. That night, as he tucked his daughter into bed, she hugged him tight. "Thank you for helping her," she whispered. He kissed her forehead. "Always," he said. Outside, the town settled into sleep, unaware that a small moment near a school fence had started something much bigger than anyone could see. The days after the incident passed quietly on the surface, but beneath that calm, small changes were taking place. The man returned to his routine, yet he paid closer attention to the world around him. He noticed who lingered at the school gates and who left alone. He listened more carefully to the tone of conversations. He reminded himself that real trouble often hid behind ordinary moments. His daughter spoke about school more than usual. She mentioned class projects, lunch lines, and who sat where. Almost every day, the same detail appeared. The girl from the fence kept to herself. She finished her food quickly and spent recess near the wall, watching others play. One afternoon, the man asked gently, "Has anyone talked to her?" His daughter shook her head. "Some kids laugh when she walks by," she said. "She pretends not to hear." That answer stayed with him. Pretending not to hear was not strength. It was survival. The next morning, he brought an extra snack and slipped it into his daughter's bag. "If you see her sitting alone," he said, "you can offer this. No pressure." His daughter nodded, serious about the task. That afternoon, she came back smiling. "She said thank you," she reported. She didn't say much, but she smiled a little. A little was enough. At the school, staff members had followed procedure. Notes were written. Warnings were given. Still, the man knew that rules did not always change behavior. He requested a short meeting, not as an angry parent, but as a concerned one. He spoke calmly about what he had seen and what his daughter continued to notice. He asked questions instead of making demands. The staff listened. One of them admitted that the girl had moved homes recently. Another mentioned that she struggled to trust adults. Nothing was said outright, but the picture was clear. She was slipping through the cracks. "I'm not here to cause trouble," the man said. "I just don't want her to feel alone." After the meeting, he felt the familiar pull again. Not the kind that rushed or pushed, but the kind that stayed steady, asking to be noticed. That weekend, the town held a small fair in the park. There were food trucks, games, and music that drifted through the air. The man took his daughter, hoping to give her a break from school worries. They walked past booths and laughed at simple games. As they stood in line for drinks, his daughter tugged at his hand. "She's here," she whispered. Across the grass, the girl sat on a bench by herself, watching other children play. No adult sat beside her. No one called her name. The man hesitated. He did not want to overwhelm her. He did not want to step into her space without care. He knelt beside his daughter. "If you want to invite her to sit with us, you can," he said. "I'll be right here." His daughter walked over slowly, holding the extra drink. She said something quiet. The girl looked up, surprised. After a moment, she nodded. They sat together on the grass, not too close, not too far. The man stayed nearby, giving space but staying present. He noticed how the girl flinched at sudden noises and how she watched adults carefully, as if measuring them. When it was time to leave, the girl stood up quickly, as if afraid of overstaying. "Thank you," she said softly. "You're welcome," the man replied. "Anytime." That night, his daughter talked about the fair until sleep finally caught her. The man sat by the window afterward, watching the streetlights flicker on. He wondered where the girl went after events like that, who reminded her to brush her teeth, who asked about her day. The following week, he noticed her again at pickup time, waiting longer than others. When most parents had gone, she still stood near the steps, holding her bag tight. The man waited too. When the last bus left, a worker walked her toward the office. Later, he learned why. Her living situation had changed again. Temporary places, short stays, new rules. Each move chipped away at her sense of safety. His daughter asked one evening, "Why doesn't she have a home?" The man took a long breath. "Some people don't get the help they need," he said. "But that doesn't mean they don't deserve it." The next day, he brought books to donate to the school library. It gave him a reason to be there without drawing attention. As he signed the form, he caught sight of the girl sitting in the hallway, knees pulled close. She looked up when she saw him, unsure. He smiled gently and nodded, nothing more. She nodded back. Small steps mattered. Over the next few weeks, his daughter and the girl spoke more. Not much, but enough. Short sentences, shared snacks, quiet moments during reading time. The girl's shoulders relaxed little by little. She laughed once, surprised by the sound of her own voice. The man noticed everything. He never pushed. He never promised anything he could not give. He simply showed up. One afternoon, a sudden argument broke out near the playground. Raised voices. A shove that stopped just short of becoming worse. The man's body tensed, ready, but teachers intervened quickly. Still, he saw the girl freeze where she stood, eyes wide, breath shallow. Afterward, she sat alone, shaking. His daughter ran to him. "She's scared," she said. He approached slowly and knelt a short distance away. "You're safe," he said, keeping his voice calm. "It's over." The girl nodded, though her hands still trembled. Later that evening, the man called a number the school had provided. It was not an easy call. He spoke carefully, respectfully, asking about ways to support a child without crossing boundaries. The answer was complicated. Forms, reviews, waiting lists. Still, he listened. Weeks passed. The seasons shifted slightly. Leaves began to fall. The girl's trust grew, fragile but real. She began to greet his daughter first. She asked questions. Simple ones. About homework. About pets. About favorite colors. One day, she asked, Do you always come back? The man overheard the question and felt his chest tighten. Yes, his daughter answered without hesitation. He does. That night, the man lay awake longer than usual. He thought about duty, about responsibility, about the lines between help and commitment. He had faced danger without fear before. This felt harder. This felt like stepping into something that could change lives, including his own. The next morning, as he walked his daughter to the car, he saw the girl watching them from a distance. When she realized she had been noticed, she looked away quickly. He paused, then made a decision that felt both small and huge. Would you like to walk with us to the gate? He asked her gently. She hesitated, then nodded. As they walked together, the air felt different. Lighter but also full of questions. The man did not have answers yet. He only knew this. When a child begins to trust, you do not disappear. You stay. And sometimes, staying is the bravest thing of all. The walk to the school gate became a quiet routine. Not every day, but often enough that it began to feel normal. The man never rushed it. He matched the girl's pace, even when it slowed to a careful shuffle. His daughter talked about small things, giving space for silence when it came. No one forced conversation. That was part of why it worked. At first, the girl kept her eyes on the ground. She listened more than she spoke. When teachers passed, she stiffened, then relaxed when nothing happened. Over time, her shoulders dropped a little sooner. Her steps grew steadier. She started to look up. One morning, she asked a question so quiet it almost slipped away. Do you come here every day? Yes, the man said. School days. She nodded, as if placing that fact carefully in her mind. At school, things were changing slowly. The loud kids kept their distance. The teasing did not disappear, but it softened. Sometimes all it took was one person paying attention for others to think twice. Teachers checked in more often. A counselor spoke with her during free periods. It wasn't perfect, but it was movement. At home, the man found himself thinking ahead in ways he hadn't before. He read about school support programs late at night. He learned about rules he had never needed to know. He asked questions without expecting immediate answers. Patience had always been one of his strengths. He leaned on it now. His daughter noticed the changes too. She began saving a seat at lunch even if the girl didn't always take it. She talked about her day with more care, choosing words that welcomed rather than crowded. One afternoon, the girl surprised everyone by asking to join a group activity. Her voice shook, but she stood there anyway. The room went quiet for a moment. Then someone shrugged and made space. It wasn't kindness exactly, but it was enough. When the man heard about it later, he smiled to himself. Progress did not always look like celebration. Sometimes it looked like staying in the room. The weather turned cooler. Jackets came out. The days grew shorter. With each passing week, the girl's trust grew, thread by thread. She laughed more easily now. She shared bits of herself without being asked. Favorite drawings. A song she liked. A memory of a place she used to live. One evening, as the man waited near the school steps, the girl didn't head toward the office as usual. Instead, she walked straight to them. Can I walk with you? She asked, eyes hopeful but cautious. Of course, he said. They walked side by side. Halfway to the car, she stopped and looked at him. Why do you help me? The question was simple, but it carried weight. Because you needed help, he said. And because you matter. She looked down, then nodded. No argument. No disbelief. Just acceptance. Later that night, his daughter asked, Is she going to be okay? I hope so, he answered. We're doing what we can. The next week brought a setback. A misunderstanding during recess led to raised voices. No one was hurt, but the girl shut down afterward. She sat alone again, quiet and distant. Old habits returned quickly when fear took over. The man did not push. He waited. When the girl was ready, she spoke. Not to teachers. Not to counselors. To him. They think I'm trouble, she said one afternoon, staring at her shoes. Being upset doesn't make you trouble, he replied. It makes you human. She considered this carefully. He noticed that she often asked permission for things others took for granted. Sitting closer, speaking up, staying longer. Each request was a test. Each answer mattered. Yes, that's fine, he would say. Take your time, he would add. Those words began to settle into her, slowly replacing the fear that told her she was always one mistake away from being sent away. A meeting was called with school staff and support workers. The man attended, not as a savior, but as someone willing to listen. The conversation was careful and layered. Stability was discussed. Options were considered. Nothing moved fast. Afterward, he sat in his car longer than usual. He thought about lines again, where help ended, where responsibility began. He thought about his daughter, about the quiet strength she showed without knowing it. That weekend, he invited the girl to the park with them. He made it clear there was no pressure. She could say no. She said yes. At the park, she stayed close at first, watching. Then she tried the swings. Laughter slipped out before she could stop it. She covered her mouth, surprised, then laughed again. The man stood back, letting the moment breathe. On the drive home, she asked from the back seat, "Can we do this again?" "Yes," he said. When they dropped her off, she hesitated before leaving. "Thank you," she said, more firmly than before. "You're welcome," he replied. As weeks passed, the girl began to talk about the future in small ways. Next week's test. A drawing she wanted to finish. A book she hoped to read. These were signs the man recognized well. Hope often arrived quietly. One evening, his daughter asked a question that had been building for some time. "Can she come over sometime?" The man paused. "We'll see what's allowed," he said honestly. That night he made more calls, asked more questions, learned more about what it took to provide stability beyond kindness. The answers were not easy. They required commitment, time, openness. Still, the idea did not scare him away. At school the next day, the girl handed him a folded piece of paper. Inside was a drawing. 3 figures holding hands near a gate. No words, just color. He swallowed hard and smiled. "This is beautiful," he said. She beamed. Later, when his daughter climbed into bed, she whispered, "She smiles more now." "Yes," he said softly. "She does." The man stood by the window that night, watching the lights come on one by one. He understood now that this was no longer about a single moment by a fence. It was about consistency, showing up, staying kind when it would be easier to step back. Trust was forming, not loudly, not all at once, but it was real. And once real trust begins to grow, it asks a question in return. Will you still be here tomorrow? Change rarely arrives all at once. It shows up in small choices made again and again. The man felt this deeply as the weeks moved forward. The girl's presence had become a quiet part of their days, woven in through walks, short talks, and shared moments that did not demand anything more than attention. At school, the girl no longer waited by the wall every afternoon. She walked out with a bit more confidence, sometimes beside his daughter, sometimes a step behind. She still watched the world carefully, but the fear no longer ruled every move. Teachers noticed. Staff members spoke about improvement. Words like progress and stability appeared more often. Still, there were limits. Rules shaped what could and could not happen. Visits had to be approved. Time together had to be planned. The man respected these boundaries, even when they felt slow and heavy. One afternoon, a support worker asked if he would consider attending a longer meeting. Not as an observer this time, but as someone willing to be involved. He agreed. The meeting took place in a quiet room with plain walls and a long table. Papers were stacked neatly. Voices stayed professional. The girl was not present. The conversation was about her life, but not hers to lead. They spoke about her past in careful terms. Many changes. Few constants. Adults who came and went. Promises that didn't last. The man listened without interrupting. Each detail added weight to what he already felt. "What she needs most," someone said, "is consistency." The word echoed. Consistency was something he understood. It was built through action, not words. They asked about his home, his work, his support system. He answered honestly. He did not paint a perfect picture. He spoke about long days, tired evenings, and learning as he went. He spoke about his daughter and the way she welcomed others without fear. At the end of the meeting, no decisions were made. But a door opened. That evening, he explained things to his daughter in simple terms. "There are rules," he said. "We have to be patient." She nodded. "That's okay," she said. "We can wait." Waiting became part of their routine. The girl visited their home for the first time on a cool afternoon. She stood on the doorstep, unsure whether to step inside. The man let her take her time. He showed her where to put her shoes. He pointed out the kitchen, the living room, the place where his daughter liked to read. "You can sit wherever you like," he said. She chose the edge of the couch. They kept things simple. Snacks, coloring, quiet music in the background. No questions about the future. No pressure to stay longer than she wanted. When it was time to leave, she looked around once more. "It's calm here," she said. He nodded. "We try to keep it that way." As visits continued, the girl relaxed more quickly each time. She learned where things were kept. She asked before touching anything, then slowly stopped asking so often. She laughed without covering her mouth. She spoke louder, but with comfort came fear. One night, she asked quietly, "If I do something wrong, will I have to go away?" The man felt his chest tighten. He chose his words carefully. "Everyone makes mistakes," he said. "Mistakes don't mean you disappear." She studied his face, searching for something solid. At school, the girl began to stand up for herself in small ways. She asked for help when confused. She said no when pushed. These moments were celebrated quietly, without drawing attention. Then came another challenge. A change in schedule. Possible move discussed in distant terms. The girl grew quiet again. Old fears crept back in. The man did not hesitate. He asked for another meeting. This time he spoke differently. Not only as someone who cared, but as someone ready to commit. He spoke about the girl's growth. About what stability had already done for her. About the bond forming between her and his daughter. "I'm not asking to rush anything," he said. "I'm asking to protect what's working." Silence followed. Then careful questions. Then long pauses. The process moved forward slowly, but it moved. At home, the girl began leaving small things behind on purpose. A hair tie on the counter. A book on the table. It was a test. Would she be welcome again? Each time, the items waited for her. His daughter noticed. "She leaves pieces of herself," she said one evening. "Yes," he replied. "So she knows where to find them." The girl started helping with small tasks. Setting plates, watering plants, simple things that said, "You belong here," even if no one said the words yet. One afternoon, she fell asleep on the couch, curled up with a blanket. The man watched from the doorway, heart heavy and full at the same time. Sleep like that came only when the body believed it was safe. When she woke, she looked around quickly, panic flashing in her eyes. "You're okay," he said gently. "You didn't miss anything." She relaxed and nodded. As the weeks passed, the conversations with support workers grew more serious. Plans were discussed, steps outlined. Nothing was promised, but hope became more than a fragile thing. One evening, the girl asked his daughter, "Do you think I could stay?" His daughter answered without hesitation, "I hope so." The man overheard and felt the weight of the question settle fully. Hope carried responsibility. He knew that now. That night, he sat alone after the house grew quiet. He thought about the life he had built and the one that was slowly taking shape. He thought about choosing to stay, even when it meant stepping into uncertainty. In the morning, he made his choice clear. He signed forms. He scheduled visits. He opened his home further. When he told the girl, he kept it simple. "We're going to keep working on this," he said. "Together." Her eyes filled, but she did not cry. She nodded, holding herself steady. Outside, the season shifted again. Trees changed color. Air turned sharp. Inside, something steady took root. Not a promise yet, but a direction. And sometimes, choosing a direction is the moment everything truly begins. The final steps took longer than anyone wanted, but by now, waiting felt different. It no longer felt like standing still. It felt like moving carefully, making sure every step was firm. The man understood this. He had learned that rushing could break things that needed time to grow. The girl continued coming to their home more often. Sometimes it was just for a few hours after school. Sometimes it stretched into an evening. Each visit added another layer of comfort. She knew where the cups were kept. She knew which blanket was her favorite. She knew the sound of the house when it was calm. At school, her teachers noticed the change clearly. She raised her hand. She asked for help without fear. She no longer sat alone every day. Not because everyone suddenly became kind, but because she no longer believed she deserved to be invisible. The man stayed involved but steady. He never spoke over her. He let her speak for herself when she could. When meetings were held, he listened more than he talked. When questions were asked, he answered honestly. One afternoon, the girl was invited to stay overnight for the first time. She packed her bag slowly, folding each item with care. When she arrived, she placed her bag near the door and stood still, as if waiting for instructions. "You can put it in the room," the man said gently. "The room?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "The one you've been using." She nodded and carried the bag down the hallway, her steps light but unsure. That night, she lay awake longer than the others, listening to the quiet sounds of the house. For once, the quiet did not feel empty. In the morning, she woke early and helped make breakfast. No one asked her to. She simply joined in. When she spilled a little milk, she froze, waiting for a reaction. "It's okay," the man said, handing her a towel. "Happens to everyone." She cleaned it up and breathed out slowly. As weeks passed, the conversations with support workers reached their final stage. Paperwork was reviewed. Homes were visited. Questions were asked one last time. The man never pretended it was easy. He spoke about challenges openly. He spoke about learning every day. One afternoon, he sat with the girl at the table. "There's something important we need to talk about," he said. She stiffened. "We're hoping," he continued carefully, "that you can stay here for good." Her eyes widened. She didn't speak at first. Then she asked the question that had lived inside her for so long. "Even if I mess up?" He met her gaze. "Even then." Tears came quietly, not loud or sudden. She wiped them away quickly, embarrassed. "You don't have to hide that," his daughter said softly, moving closer. The girl nodded and let herself cry. The final approval came on a clear morning. The man received the call while standing in the kitchen. He listened carefully, thanked the person on the other end, and ended the call with steady hands. For a moment he stood still. Then he went to the living room. "It's official," he said. The girl stared at him, not understanding at first. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means," he said slowly, "you're home." She took a step forward, then another. Then she wrapped her arms around him, holding on tightly. He held her back, just as firmly. Life did not suddenly become perfect. There were hard days. Old fears surfaced sometimes. There were questions about the past that had no easy answers. But there was also something new. There was routine. There was laughter at the table. There was someone waiting after school. The girl began calling the house home without stopping to think. She hung her drawings on the wall. She chose her own clothes. She slept deeply. One evening, as the man tucked her in, she looked at him and smiled. "You stayed," she said. "Yes," he replied. "I did." Outside, the town moved on as it always had. People passed by, unaware of the quiet victory inside one small house. A child who once stood alone by a fence now had a place to belong. And it all began with 3 simple words spoken from the heart. "Please help her."